It's time for the Ant Hill Show. What's going on? Jason showing his love for George Kittle.
Side in, baby.
Yeah, people side in.
Getting it done again.
We're gonna be talking a little bit about Kittle in this one as well. But Jason, 49ers get a tough win against the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think anyone really expected it to be this tough.
No.
But at least when push came to shove, the 49ers came out on top. That's what the good teams do.
So I did have a little wager on this game, and I did have the Niners covering the 8.5. So I did lose on that end. I was bummed out, but bigger picture, we've seen Brock Purdy dominate games. We've seen him be quarterback for massive blowouts. What we hadn't seen yet was him in a tough environment, leading a fourth quarter, second half comeback, and a potential should have been game-winning drive twice. And he did that. So I will take the amount of money that I lost because it gave him a chance to Purdy, get to that stage of, well, we haven't seen this yet. Okay, that box is now checked. Overall, thought the game went pretty well. It was good to see Ayuk take the game over. It was good to see Caffrey on the ball. Jordan Mason had a big time run for us. The O-line played really well. Here comes one that I never thought I'd say. Last year, Max Crosby was the second team All-Pro in front of 97. Even though 97 did not get a sack yesterday, I think we all saw who the better edge player was, because Max Crosby was owned, the capital O, by Mike McGlinchey?
Yeah.
What? Where did that come from?
Well, it's real simple. Mike McGlinchey's been playing his best football for like the last 5 weeks. And that's presumably when he started getting healthy. He was dealing with the rib. At the beginning of the year, he was dealing with the leg coming out of the preseason. He had, kind of tweaked it again. Nothing too serious, but he's been battling. And now we're getting a healthy Mike McGlinchey. We're seeing a guy playing for a new contract, and he's playing at a pretty high level. With Max Crosby, I think it's a little bit, overblown sometimes of how good he is. He's not on the same level as Nick Bosa.
Close.
Do I think he's one of the better guys in the league? Yeah, sure. Why
Top
not?
10,
he does a
sure.
pretty good job. But when it comes down to it, he's just not as good as Nick Bosa, and it's on display. Nick Bosa ends up being a tremendously pivotal to the 49ers defeating the Raiders in this football game. And yeah, I flipped a slide to Brock Purdy when you were talking about it, but we'll go back to the Raiders a little bit. Because, this game was not exactly what 49er fans were expecting. But the things that you brought up it was good for this 49ers team to go through a matchup like this. They've been handling teams by double-digit points over a pretty good span.
They have the largest margin of victory on average in the entire league. So they haven't really had to play close games. And it's at some point later this month or hopefully next month, they might have a close game. So it was good to see them have to handle that pressure, handle that environment too.
Yeah, what I loved was you saw all the things that needed to happen. Down 10 in the third quarter, come back, take the lead, go down and score, Raiders go down and score, then you go right back and put yourself in an opportunity to kick a winning field goal. And I thought that, a lot of times when you're on the road like that and you miss that field goal at the end of the game, you could easily tank, but the defense showed up. Nick Bosa made a play. Tyshawn Gibson make a play. And I love that Kyle Shanahan turns right back to Robbie Gould and says, you know what, kick this one through, because what it does is just prove that he knows he's going to need Robbie Gould in the playoffs, and you don't run the risk of fumbling a snap, fumbling the football. You just get it done.
Since we're both coaches, we understand the psychology with our players. So I get that that bigger picture wise, it was the right play. But me personally, I would have loved, because it was the Raiders and their fans are so stupid and run their mouths so damn much, just to hand it off and just power it right through and just be like, sit down, this game's over, go home. But I do understand what you are right though. Bigger picture, it was good to get the ball right back to Robbie's hand. In basketball, guy misses a shot, I want to get the shot, that next play, like, hey man, you got this. I know, but there's a part of me that just was like, it's first to go at the 2. Let's just power right through and be like, get out of here. stuff, boys. But yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times it's very smart. If somebody makes a mistake, someone drops a pass, someone throws an interception, you go right back to them. The quicker they get that behind them, the better. Do I think Robbie Gould ultimately needs that? No, he's a veteran in this league that understands you're going to make a lot of kicks and you're going to miss, some here or there. But I thought Kyle Shanahan also did something smart is by going out there on second down after centering the football. If you have a bad snap or something, you get on it, you go ahead and you have another opportunity. Yep. So that was smart. And the 49ers had all the situations that you need to have in a game, and they played great situational football. Once again, I would like to point out, too, we talk a lot about the offense and the defense, but the special teams continues to play
it's gotten better every week.
Good football.
Yep.
And Mitch Wisnowski, his punt wasn't great out of his old end zone, but I think everyone needs to remember he's also been dealing with illness all week. So that flu that's going around is no joke, and it seems to be going through the 49ers locker room right now.
Yep, it's been going around all NorCal. I mean,
yeah, I had it. It kicked my butt for sure. Jason, let's talk about Brock Purdy, because Brock Purdy wins his 4th game as a starting quarterback, 5th game overall, and he's done a very good job of just managing expectations, but also managing this team. Putting the players in the right situations to be successful. And I thought did he have a couple of decisions that were close? Yes, he did make the bad decision. He didn't see Amick Robertson, had it fallen off and then got back. He should have thrown it over the top more to Kittle. But I thought that was a great learning experience. Coaches like when you have negative plays you can learn from.
Build on. Exactly.
Yeah, so I thought that was, a good learning moment. But what did you think of Brock Purdy?
So, I was, because I figured we would discuss him yesterday. So I was watching. In terms of how he's played so far, I thought until the middle 3rd quarter, I thought yesterday was probably his worst game, in that he was late on a couple throws. He missed some guys. He didn't see the field as well as he normally has. So I didn't think it was his best game, but I also thought it was maybe his most important game for the stuff that we talked about earlier, having to come back, having to have a late 4th quarter drive, all that kind of stuff. So when we absolutely needed him to play, he got the ball out quick, and it was on target, on point. But if we were to do the letter grade, I probably would have given him a C plus. Like I really did. And it's mostly because we had guys open, and he didn't either see him, or he didn't or it was a bad throw. So, and all that being said, we still scored 37 points. So. It's nitpicky, but at the same time, when we have Kittle over the top and he's wide open and he's got this much space between him and the DB, that ball needs to be here so he can catch it and go. And he missed, I believe he missed Tyler Kroft, who was one time wide open too. It's things like that where it's like, not at the end of the day. On that particular play, they had a completion. They gained 7-8 yards out of it, but it could have been a 20, 30, 40-yard play if he had seen him. So
here's the thing. He missed Tyler Kroft, you're right. But both that one and the George Kittle one are tough, because he missed George Kittle on what would have been a deep crosser. He hits Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey ends up, getting 16, 17 yards. Yeah. It's a great gain. Did he miss him? Yes. Are those bigger plays? Yes. Is that usually what he takes? Absolutely. Here's the thing. With both of those situations, it's happening just as he's about to release the ball. That's when those guys are coming open. So I think with Tyler Kroft, you're rolling left. And then what do you never tell a quarterback to do?
Don't throw back across.
Where was Tyler Kroft?
Middle of the field.
So he's got to throw back across, right? Yeah. He's got to throw this way. So I think what he was trying to do is make a good decision. Did ultimately he make, the decision that would have been a touchdown? No. Was he seeing the field the best that he's ever seen it? No. But what I did like was you talked about the first half of the game, potentially being one of his worst that we've seen performance-wise. In that situation, he still had 2 touchdowns. One to Ayuk and one to George Kittle.
The one to Kittle was nice.
Right.
That was a heck of a play.
It was a great throw.
It was.
And the one to Ayuk, he throws right in the window.
That was about that big a window, too. So that's what I mean. Like I feel like he's earned the right to be evaluated. Like, if Jimmy had played the exact same game that he had yesterday, I'd have been like, that's a good game for Jimmy.
Right.
But what we've seen from Purdy, being able to get the ball downfield, being able to see guys being open, for him, the scale is a little bit different. I evaluate him a little harder, shall we say, because I've seen him do the things that we wanted to see Jimmy for 5 damn years now. So that's why I gave him the harder.
No, I understand where you're coming from. And, I don't think by any means Brock Purdy thought he had the greatest game ever. Do I think that he looked human at moments? Yeah. Still seen all the great things, right? The escapability, avoiding sacks, throwing the football away like he did in the end zone to be able to prevent getting a safety. There are a lot of things to like. But what was nice was that the Raiders threw a lot of different coverage and a lot of personnel groupings at him that he had not seen yet. And, a lot of people forget that there's a Ryan. It's not Buddy. It's not, Rex, but Rob Ryan is there on staff as a senior defensive assistant. I knew there was going to be
some weird stuff,
some pretty good blitzes and probably some pretty unique coverages. And that's what they threw at him. And so I think that it was a good learning experience for Brock. But once Brock settled in and once Kyle Shanahan settled into what the Raiders were doing, the offense produced at a high level. And once again, here we go with a 49ers team that's scoring plus 30. If you score plus 30 in football games, you should be able to win every single game you're in.
Yeah.
So, I think you're right, though. I don't think it was Purdy's best. I probably wouldn't give him a C+. I'd probably give him a B- because leading your team down the field in crunch time twice, that's pretty remarkable. But I do get what you're saying, though, because at one point he was at 2 touchdowns, but like 38 yards passed.
it was pretty interesting. The yards passed.
The People's tight end George Kittle, your guy Jason, another touchdown. He's been on fire. He's already broken his single season record for touchdowns. He just keeps producing. What did you think overall about George Kittle and can he keep this production up? It seems like him and George Kittle and Brock Purdy got a little bit of a synergy going.
Got a little magic going.
Yeah.
I think he absolutely can, and I think he will, because the way I look at it, with Debo likely back next week versus the Cardinals,
right?
Debo's not, and Brock have missed a lot of reps, so I don't think that it's that not that he trusts him, but he has a ton more reps with Jennings and with Ayuk and with Kittle, so. I think they'll get the ball to Debo, but I think it's going to be a couple more weeks before they have the kind of chemistry that he has with everybody else because of Debo's injury. So Debo will be out there, and he will attract attention.
Yeah.
But I think that will just make it easier for everybody else, though, because of that chemistry and the reps.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think they're going to want to make sure this offense starts clicking at a high level. It's all about getting these guys, into the right situations where you feel comfortable with how this offense is going to be clicking together. And George Kittle is now up to 736 yards on the season, 56 receptions, 9 touchdowns. It feels like he's a real option in this offense. Of course, Brandon Ayuk is 41 yards away from 1,000. They've had guys making plays. Christian McCaffrey's been, fantastic with everything, but they need to reacclimate Deebo Samuel into this offense so that way Brock Purdy can get used to having that extra weapon. Right now, they don't have a predominant weapon outside of George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and McCaffrey, right? You have those 3, so you kind of get.
It's not a bad 3.
No,
right
it's
there.
not. But I'm just saying,
3 at all.
You get a rhythm with those guys.
Yeah,
when you have Ray, that's a support piece, and you have Juwan Jennings, that's a support piece. That's a lot different than implementing a guy that now can be a focal part of your offense. So now they have to reacclimate him, and they have to get used to those 4 guys now being huge roles in the offense. I think what Kittle's done in Deebo's absence has been spectacular. I think that, some of the things that Brock Purdy's done is open things up for Kittle where he's able to have a little bit more time. He doesn't have to win right away, right? Yeah. He can kind of be able to use his strength, which is find extra spots to get open. So I've been loving it, and I think that we are going to get a little bit of Deebo Samuel in this next game, and I'm excited about that.
I think very helpful.
It's going to be nice. It's going to be real nice. And let's go ahead and talk about Ayuk and McCaffrey because I think that they need to be recognized as well. Christian McCaffrey, I thought he had just an absolute fantastic game. Over 121 yards. He had 121 yards rushing. Then he has a 17 yards receiving. So now he's over 1,000 yards on the season, 8 rushing touchdowns. Of course, a little bit of that with the Carolina Panthers. That's something to remember. But Brandon Ayuk goes for 9 and over 101 yards on the game, including a touchdown, Jason. So Brandon Ayuk is right there. He's getting close. He's got 956 yards, so it's 44 yards away from getting 1,000 yards. And more than likely, there could be another touchdown. I don't know if he'll get to double-digit touchdowns, but him and Kittle are right around it.
Yeah, no, that it. I was very happy to see on the this is kind of dumb, but the NFL's IG account they actually posted on their thing for the world to see a Brandon Ayuk thing on like Wednesday or Thursday, and it was just all about him and his great ability to run routes, and you see him just blowing by guys off the line, and we saw that again on Sunday. His that he runs that slant route so good, like it takes me back to our youth when we watched Jerry and T.O. and JT and all those. All
for a
those
second,
guys.
when you said T.O., I didn't think you were gonna say John Taylor.
Oh, of course, you know I love John Taylor.
I
Please,
know I do too.
Come on, you know I have a. You know, I think he was a Hall of Fame guy if it hadn't been for being next to Jerry and even JJ Stokes was good at this old slant. So just watching that, I love it because that's for 37 years that's what I've been used to is that slant route. So I love that route, and so that's partially why I love Ayuk so much is because he kind of reminds me of all those guys and how he plays and how he's not super fast, but yet he gets a step on you and he's getting big yardage. So I love watching him play, and I was that catch that he made on the one where Purdy got hit as he released it. Ball was just kind of going like this, and we're all going, "Oh God, oh God!" He jumps up and snags it like it was a big time play. It just absolutely was. His emergence since especially since Debo's been out has been great to watch because I think he's a Pro Bowl talent, and I think we're all starting to see what some of us saw in him last year. That like this guy could be really really good if he gets going. And then McCaffrey, I mean, that little screen pass he had there that gave me momentary flashbacks to Kittle in New Orleans, just trucking the whole team. I was like, that was. But I do want to say, I don't want to hear any people talking about that. Like, oh, this is like the New Orleans game. Not even close. First of all, the Raiders are trash, and that game was for the potentially for the number one seed. Giant difference. So everyone stop comparing those two games now. Okay, let's drop that. McCaffrey's just like literally. Is there anyone out there? And if there is, please comment. Do you care that we gave up 4 picks for him now? Like that should be that conversation needs to end already. Like he's through the first 8-9 weeks that we've had him, he's proven that those 4 picks will not be anything that we ever need to worry about ever again.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's regretting making that trade for Christian McCaffrey. And, you know, McCaffrey and Ayuk have carried the load with Deebo Samuel out. I think we've seen it in short spurts. McCaffrey against the Rams, you know, no Deebo, but he goes out there, he throws for one, he catches one. Like he can do it all. With Brandon Ayuk, I don't think it's been, you know, McCaffrey coming on the scene. McCaffrey is right. They haven't lost since he's had a full week of practice. No. He unlocked Kyle Shanahan's offense. I think with Ayuk, he's been the consistent player in this offense. You know, they've had a lot of changes. You know, Kittle was out to start the season. Debo's been in and out of the lineup. Christian McCaffrey wasn't there at first.
No Elijah Mitchell.
No Elijah Mitchell. Other quarterbacks. We're on our third quarterback.
True.
But the consistency has been Brandon Ayuk. You know he's probably going to get 5 to 6 catches for around 80 yards every single game. And I think that's something that's nice. You have that dependability. We're starting to see him come on the scene. I think a lot of that has to go with how he prepared in the offseason, where he got his body. He's physically stronger. He's faster. His routes are more nasty. He runs with complete violence when he's running his routes. This is what Kyle Shanahan was doing last year when everyone was complaining. Why is he in the doghouse? This is why. So you could get this player that you're getting right now, and now it could potentially pay the 49ers huge dividends as they go for a Super Bowl, because what they did not have in 2019 that they have in Brandon Ayuk is somebody that can win one-on-one man coverage when you need it. He can get it done. This isn't Michael Crabtree, right? This isn't one of those guys you can body. He's going to get you, and if you lunge at him, he's wide open.
What I've been saying to our group, our little friend group, is finally emerging that he will be our best pure wide receiver. And some other people who used to be on this network thought I was insane, but starting to see that not playmaker, not football player, but just purely as a wide receiver to do what wide receivers do. He does it better than anybody on our roster.
Yeah, I mean,
like it just is.
Right. He's probably the only pure wide receiver the 49ers have.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel is a wide back.
He's a player.
Christian McCaffrey's a run-ceiver. Right. This is who they are. And then you've got George Kittle. He does what he does, but he's a special kind of tight end because he can do it all. The 49ers have absolute weapons, and Ayuk, they got him for a specific reason, so he could win those matchups. And just like he did on that fourth quarter drive, he could take over a football game.
He did too,
and he did. And could you imagine if they were having to pay attention to Deebo Samuel? If that wasn't Jawan Jennings running this other slant inside on the double slant, if that was Deebo, he probably would have scored a touchdown. He probably would have caught it and housed it. So yeah, it's nice to see the 49ers have weapons. And Jason, now it's time. You did it a little bit, but I want full flowers for Mike McGlinchey. I want you to it's time for you to just straight love Mike McGlinchey. He deserves it. He needs it. McGlinchey's been playing really good. McGlinchey in this offensive line, Jay Hill. I'm ready for you to talk about it. How do you think they played overall, and then what grade would you give them?
So first of all, we're going to talk about O-line. If you guys hadn't heard yet, Banksy's going to be okay. He should be able to play our first playoff game. Thank God, because he's been absolute rock in his first year. Once again, all the talk about he's a bust. No, he's going to be a Pro Bowler for next 10 years. Actually,
let's be honest though. Let's be honest. The talk of him being a bust was not so much about the fact he didn't play in his first season, but the fact that he didn't look like he fit the mold, right, athletically for this system.
Yeah.
And there are some things that are different, but he's still dominant in the run game, which everyone thought. But I think it's the pass protection.
Pretty good.
He's very good moving on the inside. It's fantastic.
Yeah, he is. So let's start with that one.
Okay.
Now, Mike McGlinchey, if he continues to play the way he's played for the rest of the season, hopefully through mid-February down in Arizona, I would consider a 3-4 year deal around $55 million. I'd offer him that much.
Woo!
Because that's about a fair rate for a right tackle. I guarantee him about 35 of it. He's played well enough to at least consider that we don't need to use a draft pick or something else in free agency to fix that hole that we all thought was a hole at the start of the season. He's played that well. We'll say that.
Jason's struggling.
It sounds. I mean, I feel like I've eaten more crow on this one than Eric Armstead, because I did say Eric Armstead was a much better player inside than was outside. So that's like a half win for me there. But this one's like a total loss for me here. Is that, well, I mean, let's say last year he was not good. Like to be honest, he
didn't play the whole season.
He was hurt, but even before he got hurt, he was still. He hasn't a lot of sack in 6 games now. He usually gets one holding penalty, but if I remember correctly, he didn't even have any holds yesterday too.
He didn't.
So that pretty good, I will say.
Yeah, with McGlinchey, 2019 he got hurt. Him and Joe Staley both got hurt during the season. After that, I think he tried to change up his body. He went thinner.
Vegan, right?
He went thinner. Yeah, he went thinner, and then 2020 that didn't pay off for him because then he couldn't anchor. And that was a real problem for him. He got walked into quarterbacks pretty consistently. So in 2021, he was like, you know what? Let's take it back to the bulk show, baby. And he got up to, 320 pounds. And that was a lot for him. And that's why his body couldn't hold up on the bottom. So it's been a matchup of him trying to find the right weight. He's found it now. He's 310. Yep. He's not as light as 2020. He's not as heavy as 2021. He's right dab in the middle. I think they figured it out. And now that he's healthy, he's playing right. Now, I want to ask you this, Jason. Where does Mike McGlinchey sit rank-wise as right tackle in the league? Where would you put him? And this is right tackle, not tackle. Right. Just right tackle.
Sorry. The Bills and Bengal game is suspended because a Bills safety collapsed on the field.
Oh, that's not good.
No, that's not. Wow, that's kind of scary. Right tackle, as of right now, you have to say he's top 5 or 6 maybe even. I mean,
go ahead and leave him in that top 5. I see you trying to get him out of the top 5.
well,
But 6,
I was thinking
maybe
Lionel Collins, with him going down for the rest of the year, that opens up a spot for Mike to move up into. So I guess probably top 5 now. Yeah.
I love having to hear you admit it, and you're struggling, and I'm loving every single minute of it. Oh, I feel so good about it. And I will say this: in the short term, Aaron Banks being out with Daniel Brunskill, him and Burford, that what they've been doing, playing off and on, the 49ers are well equipped to handle Aaron Banks being out. Dan Brunskill is a starting caliber guard in this league, and Spencer Burford is proving to be one of those. And because he's got all the reps he's gotten this season, he's ready to go at right guard.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Are you worried about the defense, Jason? I'm not even going to play around. Are you worried about it?
So, did I love seeing them get shredded by Jarrett's JAJERRETT guy? No, I didn't. But I get it kind of, because show me where the defensive staff could pull film up of him playing with Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, and Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller. Please, I'd like to see that video, because like there was none. So even the video that they had of him on the Patriots, he didn't have those 4 or 5 guys to get the ball to. So it would be. I get it. What I want to see is how they play against Chiefs. Like if they come out next week and the Chiefs, whose defense is not nearly as good as ours, hold them to like 8, 9, 10 points, then I'd be like, something could be. The film's out on him, and things happen. So, some of the coverage issues I didn't like, but when has Diamador Lenore ever had success against Devontae? Like that's just like a bad matchup, and. We did a pretty good job against Jacobs. Like he's the league's leading rusher now. I don't think he got to 75 yards even. So
he got 68
or something.
66, I think.
So, yeah, something like that. So that's not bad. Like that wasn't bad. The Hufanga again missing a coverage assignment on the Waller touchdown. Mm-hmm. Seems like once a game he gets just completely lost as to who he's supposed to cover. We talked about that like two weeks ago. That needs to get straightened out. I'm not overly worried, because they didn't play bad. Like it wasn't. It's kind of like with Purdy. We have an expectation for the bar to be so high. When it doesn't happen, it's kind of like, oh, that's different. Is it troubling? If they give up 25 plus to that version of Arizona this week, then we come back, show it next week, and then we discuss actually being worried. To me, this is a one-off. If Derek Carr played, they wouldn't have scored. They probably would have gotten 21, but with the different quarterback, all that kind of stuff, it just threw everything off. I'm not, so on the scale of like 1 to 10 being like 1, I'm not worried at all, to 10, oh my God, they're going to lose in the first round. 1.5, 2.
Yeah, here it comes. Here comes some knowledge for your behind, Jason. The Washington Commanders are the ones who figured out the blueprint on how to score on the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. They max protected. They ran vertical routes. They gave their guys time, and that's when they could take advantage of Tyshawn Gibson. They could take advantage of Talanoa Hufanga peeking in the backfield. They could take advantage of Diamador Lenore. They know that those are the weaknesses. We've seen other teams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, try to take advantage of Jimmy Ward. It didn't work with great success. They thought he was the weakness. Now they figured out what the weakness is. What it is for the 49ers is now figuring out how to counteract that. I said in the Patreon breakdown where I did a scouting report, I said straight up that was going to be the game plan of the Raiders, what they did. Going ahead and doing what they did and running play action pass, and they did a good job of taking advantage of the 49ers' aggressiveness early. I think with Talanoa Hufanga, I'm going to be consistent on what my beliefs are with him, is he's trusting his pre-snap reads more than his eyes when the play happens. Yep. So what he's going to have to do is learn that, yes, your pre-snap reads are going to give you an idea of what play is coming, but you have to trust your eyes when that play happens. I thought Mark Sanchez actually did a very good job of illustrating that he focused on the tackle, the extra tackle in, believe that indicated it was going to be a run.
Run.
And what you got from, McDaniels was a guy that, switched up a tendency, and they took advantage of it. Hufanga's one-on-one with Darren Waller. I'm not sure that's the best scenario for the 49ers, but one Hufanga was able to handle in the second drive where he carried Waller into the end zone. So he does learn from mistakes, which is good. Now, should we be worried? No, because if this is now a consistent, right, it's a copycat league. This is the consistency. Max protect. No, the 49ers can't get home with 4. Beat their coverage on the back end. So what do you got to do with it? Get exotic with blitzes and also figure out how to take care of those coverage things in the back end. Are you worried about Deommodore Lenoir as a starting corner for the 49ers heading into the playoffs?
If he's covering CeeDee Lamb, if he's covering A.J. Brown, covering Justin Jefferson, if he's covering Lockett, if he's covering even maybe a little Christian Watson, because he's a huge
Fast.
he's a 6'3", 6'4" guy, runs a low 4.3. So if he's ISO'd against those guys, I think most teams would or most fan bases, most teams wouldn't want their second corner ISO'd man to man on those guys. So, but as long as he's not ISO'd and has help over the top, I'm not worried.
Here's why I have a little bit of concerns. Deommodore Lenoir has been one of the best tackling corners, in the league. Like, he doesn't miss tackles normally. In this game, he missed tackles. In this game, he didn't even squeeze tackles down. Like, he gave too much space for Jacobs in the run game. The run fits concern me. You got to make sure you do those at a high level. So there are some things about Deommodore Lenoir that scared me. I thought also what was on display was lack of ball skills, something that Samuel Womack doesn't have a problem with, right? Normally.
Right.
And I think that was a little concerning because there was a couple times that, there was plays made over the top of Lenoir, which I'm concerned about. So if we have a little bit of concerns about it, is it time for Jackrabbit? Could Janoris Jenkins be an answer the 49ers turn to? Kyle Shanahan said last week
said no,
Jackrabbit wasn't going to be a starter, but he could figure into the 49ers depth and be the first guy in. With them maybe having a little trouble with these teams targeting Deommodore Lenoir, could we see Jackrabbit here against Arizona, maybe to take a look to see what he could do in the playoffs?
I think if they aren't 100% convinced that Lenoir can keep up with the guys that we talked about, ultimately Keenan Allen or Stephon Diggs at some point, or those kind of guys that are on, this is the perfect situation to try him out, because the Arizona's got some good receivers. They've obviously the guy that's playing quarterback. I don't even know his name anymore. It's not Colt McCoy. It's not McSorley. I don't even know who the hell it is now. But so there'll be a drop off from who gets the ball to those guys. But there's still guys that are pretty good players. So I think that I think maybe this might be a good time to throw him out there for a half, even just kind of like. And see how he does, and if he can stay on those guys, then might be something that they have to evaluate going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those things. Right now would be a really, really good time to go ahead and take a look, at how Jackrabbit's looking. He came in that one game, and I thought he did pretty good. So
David Blah, David Blaine, am I about?
Yeah, not Trace McSorley. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's one of those things where we got Hopkins questionable, Robbie Anderson's questionable, Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy could play in this football game.
Marquise is out there still, and the shell still of AJ Brown, but he still makes some plays.
Yeah.
Too, so
well, okay. I think Jackrabbit should be elevated for this football game. Make sure that he's up to see what you got. And that way, too, if you start blowing him out, you could put Jackrabbit in place of Charvarius Ward and see exactly what kind of reps, you can get out of him. I think it's something to take a look at because he's a guy that's played a lot of football in this league. He understands different concepts and schemes, probably in full, conditioning now and ready to help out. And I think you have to make a decision because you have nothing but young cats behind Charvarius Ward. It's Samuel Womack, Deommodore Lenoir, Ambry Thomas. I think it's time for them to kind of, take a look at it. Now, Jason, let's get to the number 2 seed. The 49ers have secured the number 2 seed. Minnesota Vikings finally lose the game. They've been flirting with it, flirted with it with the Colts, flirted with it with the New York Football Giants. Now it finally gets done. The Packers absolutely hammer the Minnesota Vikings. So, got the number 2 seed, Jason. Let's take a look. Let's talk.
We had this conversation last week.
Yeah, let's talk about the playoff picture a little bit, because you've got the teams right there for that 7 seed, and that's who the 49ers would be playing. If it was all done right now, the 49ers would play the Seattle Seahawks. But Seattle, Green Bay, and Detroit are all in the mix for that last spot. Now with the NFL coming out with their schedule, Green Bay is going to be playing Detroit Sunday Night Football with all eyes on to see who potentially is going to be that spot. So the situation goes, and we'll explain it. Make sure I explain it right, Jason.
Yes.
If the Green Bay Packers win, they're in. They're the number 7 seed. If Seattle wins and Detroit wins, Seattle's in.
Mm-hmm.
If Detroit wins and Seattle loses, then Detroit is in.
Yep.
So that is kind of the things that happen for that 7 seed. The locked-in seeds are Tampa Bay at 4 and the New York Football Giants at 6.
Everything else is
up in the air.
Yep.
Now, let me ask you this. 49ers are the number 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want them to be? Do you want them at number 1? Do you want them at 2, or do you want them at 3?
1 obviously is nice because you get a bye and you're at home in Glendale. So, but 1 also means you get likely you get the Cowboys or the Eagles round 2,
right?
And then you have to probably play the other of those teams the next week. So, right. And if you don't get the Cowboys or Eagles in round 2, then you get Tom Brady, and
not entirely. What if the New York Football Giants beat the Minnesota Vikings, and you're the number 1 seed? You get the Football Giants in round 2. And that would send Dallas and Philly to play each other.
Yeah, that'd be ideal there. Like that would. Because as I said last week, I want the Giants at all costs. Like, give me the Giants, and I'm happy.
Did the Giants not almost beat the Vikings?
I don't. They are a product of Brian Daboll, who I love, and I wish the Chargers had hired him 2 years ago. If that was the case, the Chargers would be a Super Bowl team. So this just proves that I'm wrong on some things, but I was dead ass right on him, because that team is paper and glue and magic tricks. He's making Daniel Jones look competent. Daniel Jones has been trashed for years.
He's finally got structure and a good system.
That's what he brings, though.
It's starting to Sam Darnold, same sort of situation. He's starting to look better now that he's got Wilkes at the helm, structure and a good system.
Yeah,
and a very good running game.
Coaching matters.
It does. Coaching matters. Yeah. So the reason I say this is because there's a lot of scenarios, right? Green Bay is one of the scarier teams right now because they're starting to get hot.
I want no part of Green Bay.
But here's the thing. When people naturally think, well, we don't want the number 1 seed because we want to stay away from Dallas and Philly. But what if you're winning the number 1 seed actually causes that to happen? Because the odds are that one of those teams that's in the wild card is going to win one of those divisional matchups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and at worst, it's Tampa Bay. I would love for the 49ers to play Tampa Bay at
Vita Bay is back, again. Though, and Tom's gotten on track with Mike Evans again. Now, here's...
Does Mike Evans know Charvarius Ward?
But
get to know him.
Still,
get to know him. Just get to know him.
They just look different.
Yeah, they did look different, down 35-7 against the 49ers.
Once again, no Vita Vea, and they had a couple other injuries.
Vita Vea was there. He just faked an injury to avoid Jake Brendel.
Oh God! Oh Jesus!
Just kidding. Horse, I'm just kidding, down. But having some fun with it. Yeah.
So Sean Payton said something that I thought was very interesting, because obviously he was the coach of the 11-5. Saints when they played the 7-9 Seahawks and the Beastquake and the Skittles flying everywhere and stuff. In that first playoff game, the last 10 years, teams that are under 500 and go into the playoffs are actually 4-2.
Okay.
So shocking enough, they've actually won more games obviously than they've lost being under 500. So, and potentially that will. Because right now the Bucks are 8-8, and they've already clinched they can't lose. They can't go up and down. So if they don't, it wouldn't shock me if a bunch of their guys sit. So they could easily end up 8-9 going into that game against Dallas. Now the thing with the Eagles is the more I kind of listen to people talk and kind of read things, the more I'm sensing that this Jalen Hurts injury is a bigger thing than the Eagles are actually letting on. Like, and my bigger, like, he might not play this week, and he might not even play the first playoff game. So if we do get the 1 seed, and they end up
playing Green
Bay or somebody else.
If they're the 5 seed, they might play Tampa Bay.
Yeah, at 5, they'd get Tampa. But if they were 2, then they would get either Seattle or whoever. So potentially him being hurt and not playing throws that team into completely different, as we saw this week, where the Saints, which obviously have a really good defense, but they made Gardner Minshew and crew look, and the Bucs have a good defense. The Packers defense is starting to play kind of at the level that played at last year. So with no Jalen Hurts, that could bounce the Eagles out that first round. So, and at that point, that really opens things up, because with them, or with him playing, they're a much scarier team than without him. So I don't know, but if I had to choose between the 2 or 3 seed, I'd be okay with the 3 seed actually still.
Yeah, I think you always want to be the highest seed you could possibly be.
I know, but
yeah, if you can get a bye week,
yes.
You get a bye week, you sit at home and you play the cards as they lie. Just let it happen. Play the ball as it lies.
Golf talk.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at you.
I went straight Happy Gilmore.
Golf talk.
I think that's just what
you just have,
month, though. You just have to let it happen and just go off of that, because you don't know how it's going to turn out. You're right. I mean, if the 49ers end up 1, there's scenarios with the Cowboys. The Cowboys have to win, the Eagles have to lose, and then the Cowboys would go ahead and take over the division. I mean, you might get a situation where it's actually Tampa knocking off Philly in the first round.
Very possible.
And Dallas getting knocked off by Green Bay in the first round.
Also possible, because
or
Rodgers
even
owns
the
Cowboys.
Or Detroit, right? Or the Seahawks, somebody getting that win. I think those are possible. I think Detroit or Green Bay could knock off Dallas or Philly if Philly doesn't have Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
And then then all of a sudden you've got the 49ers sitting there in the divisional round against Detroit, Green Bay, or the Seahawks. And Jason, that makes me ask you, who would you rather play in the playoffs out of those 3 teams? Let's just say the 49ers sit at 2. Who would you rather play? Detroit, Green Bay, or Seattle?
100% Seahawks, and I know all the numbers say that when you play a team for the 3rd time, it's and after beating them the first 2, so it's almost a 50-50 win loss 3rd time. But I'm going to trust the Geno Smith led Seahawks can't do enough creatively, offensively to get by what they've seen us do defensively. Whereas Amon-Ra St. Brown, their 2 running backs that they have an emerging, I can't remember off the top of my head, and Jameson Williams are all, and even Jared Goff's playing really well. Like,
yeah,
he looks like this is the best he's played since like year 1, year 2, when with the old cool guy hair down there. So I don't want to see them. I mean, of the 3, I don't want to see the Packers the most. So, and I think Kyle and D'Amico can outcoach Dan Campbell, even though he's done a hell of a job with that team. But give me the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at it, you automatically put Green Bay in a different category, because even though the 49ers have had recent success in the playoffs, against the Packers, and Shanahan pretty much owns LaFleur for the most part, they have an elite quarterback. So let's just take the elite quarterback out of it. Then you've got Jared Goff. He's not elite, but you're right, he's playing better. And then you've got Seattle, who the 49ers have proven that they definitely are a bad matchup for. The Seahawks aren't exactly healthy. They have the worst offensive line out of the 3 groups. I think, to me, they're the most enticing. Hey, if we can play Seattle, let's do that. And then I think it goes Detroit and then Green Bay. In the grand scheme of things, I'd play all 3 of them, because I think the 49ers could win. But I just wanted to see what you thought of that. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Cards, Jason. 49ers versus Cardinals. What do you want to see out of this game? I mean, there's some matchups and stuff, but what do you want to see? No injuries.
No injuries. That's it.
Yeah. I mean,
get the game healthy.
And what about like Debo and Elijah Mitchell? Do you want to see them reacclimated into the offense?
I want them to be like on the Javon Kinlaw pitch count that he was back the first game. Give him 10 to 15 reps. Give them each 5 or 6 touches, and then get the helmet off, get the jacket on, and have a seat, boys.
I think in the perfect scenario, the 49ers could treat this like a dress rehearsal game in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
You could play, most of your starters, quarter and a half to 2 quarters. Get some of them out. Continue to play with Brock Purdy because you need him to continue to get some reps. But once you got to the third quarter, you're hoping it's all backups. You've got the game under wraps. Of course, I'm sure somebody's going to be keeping an eye on the Eagles game because if the Eagles are losing, you're going to play full throttle.
Losing, then
you're going for the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
So they're at the same time. The NFL did that. Minnesota will have played already, so the 49ers will know if Minnesota won. If Minnesota didn't win, they're for sure secured in the 2. It's all about the number 1 seed. I think it's going to be interesting, but yeah, there's something to play for still, so the 49ers can't go completely, fully pulled off, and I don't think Kyle wants to either.
I don't think he does, but I'd rather us be healthy and be the 2 of the 3 than be the 1 seed with no Trent, though. That's.
Yeah, but you win the number 1 seed for this reason, and I'm not saying you want to lose Trent. You don't want to lose anyone, but you have to go full go for the 1 seed because you know what you won't do in the wild card round?
Play.
Lose.
Oh.
and that's important, right? You don't have that matchup. You get to sit back, watch the other teams. You get to get rest. I mean, could you develop some rust? Yes. But I think that a veteran team like this, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, no. Kyle's been around the game for far too long to let rust in.
And I think 2019 was pivotal, them getting that number 1 seed and being able to rest. They came out and went gangbusters on the Vikings and Green Bay Packers. So I think the similar situation would be great. Now let's get a really bold prediction, Jason, for this game against the Cardinals.
Really bold prediction. Well, I was gonna say really bold. Josh Johnson throws 2 touchdown passes.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, you know what? On slightly offsides, horse with Diameter North has an interception. Oh, so I like your bold.
His ball skills, that's really bold.
You know what my bold prediction is? The 49ers finish 13-4 and the number 1 seed in the playoffs. I think the Giants and Dabble go in there and beat the Eagles, and the 49ers get the number 1 seed.
He kind of got that Dan Campbell mentality too. He doesn't say as many crazy ass things as Dan does, but I can see him being like, "Nah, man, we playing this game. Like, let's go.
Right?
Like, buck up and go."
Yeah, you set the tone, right?
Yeah.
That's what you got to do, set the tone. And so what's the score prediction, 49ers versus Arizona Cardinals?
So off last week. I don't know.
We were all off. Don't worry.
That was bad. God, I'm going to go 30, 27. I like 27 to 9.
27-9. I like that. Yeah, I mean, if it's not Colt McCoy, right, the offense potentially could struggle.
They looked awful against the Falcons.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, if it was Trace McSorley, you'd have to worry about him running all around. But that's not the case here. Yeah, I think you could be right, Jason. Of course, I'll give my prediction on the game preview show that comes out later this week. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. We're pushing close to 3,500 subscribers. That was a goal to get there before the end of the season. You guys can help make that happen. So join the Cutback crew today. And also, if you like extra content, head over to Patreon. A new episode of Slightly Offsides is over there with me and Horse. And of course, the Scouting Report breakdown is going to be showing up as well. So I hope you guys all enjoyed the show. I know we enjoyed doing it. Looking forward to seeing how this thing all plays out. We'll catch you on the next episode of Ant Hill next week.
True.
All right, guys. Everyone have a good one. Go Niners.
Stay safe. Happy New Year.